Number 29 is a very tricky punctuation question. It's kind of just hard to understand what's even going on. But if we can remember that punctuation is really testing sentence structure, we have a better chance of getting this right because we might see how the punctuation relates to what's going on in the sentence. So try to read it, try to listen to see where the ideas kind of start and end and blend together. And it's tricky, but try to hear it in your head. So here we go. However, although well compensated, earning in 2012 a median annual salary of $90,930, PAs cost healthcare providers less than do the physicians who might otherwise undertake these tasks. And that's a mess of a sentence. But the main sentence here is really starting with PAs and continuing here. That red piece is the main sentence, right? I could read that without anything that comes before it and it would still be a complete thought. PAs cost healthcare providers less than do the physicians who might otherwise undertake these tasks. That's the sentence. So what that tells me is that this piece that comes before it is kind of like an extra thing that needs to be like added on somehow. And usually the way that we add things onto a sentence is with a comma. So this comma right here after the salary is doing a lot of work. It's helping us use this beginning piece to introduce the sentence. So it's an extra clause that kind of leads into the sentence. So we're going to need to make sure we take that into account when we put the punctuation there. Now, one big problem comes right away with choice D. With choice D, we have a colon, and we know that with a colon, there's a specific rule, right? The part before the colon must be a complete sentence. We have some flexibility with the part after, but this is an easy test, and it does not pass this test. Because then we would be saying, however, although well compensated, what? Who's well compensated? What are we talking about? That's not a thought. That's an incomplete idea, so this is not an okay place to use a colon. Good. We don't see a lot of parentheses on the SAT, but they are there. And so I think this is a good example where with the remaining three choices, we can use the choices to better understand what they're trying to say here and how these different clauses interact. So if I put a comma after compensated, like they do in choice C, that's not really that bad. But it implies then that everything that comes after it is part of the red underlined sentence that I've already read off. And that really doesn't make much sense because it sounds like an introduction, not like a big major piece of this sentence. So if I read it, earning in 2012 a median annual salary of $90,930, PAs cost healthcare providers less than do the physicians who might otherwise undertake these tasks. It sounds like an intro, not part of the main sentence, and that's not a good sign. So that means that one comma there isn't sufficient. We do need the comma that's in choice A and also in choice B that makes this salary piece part of the intro. So then the question is, well, what do the parentheses accomplish? Do we need even more pauses, even more separation? And honestly, this might just be a case where some of you will hear it, some of you won't. But yes, we do need a little bit more separation because the main intro here is although well compensated. That's talking about the PAs, that's giving us a little extra. So we could have omitted this entire piece about the salary and still had a nice little intro to the main sentence. Although well compensated, PAs cost healthcare providers less than do the physicians who might otherwise undertake these tasks. It's a little tough. But basically what happens is parentheses act like commas sometimes. We can use them to separate information from the main sentence, and that's exactly what we're doing here. It's weird because the information we're separating is already separated by the comma that's right before the non-underlined portion. That's confusing, but we can write that way. Commas let us kind of move between different levels of a sentence, right? There's this main sentence that's kind of anchoring everything. And then we stick pieces on, we interrupt, we do all sorts of things to that sentence to add more information, and commas are usually what we use to mark off where new information starts and ends. But that's why we would use parentheses in this case. We have kind of this like nested situation where there's extra information inside the extra information that's attached to the main sentence. And the parentheses let us kind of get a little bit more separation. Commas could have done that, but it might have gotten a little bit more confusing. We also could have used dashes, and that's something the SAT does often. They'll use the double dash basically as parentheses to kind of separate out extra information. This is not a high priority question. There are so many other grammar rules regarding punctuation that come up much more frequently and much more consistently. This is just a weird one. But the better you are at the more basic stuff, the more prepared you'll be when they do twist it up like they do in this question. So spend some time on Khan Academy practicing the punctuation rules, and the harder stuff will get easier too.